Well, recruiting is about to surge. You know why? Because Harding Harper is officially official. Let's go.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. On today's episode, we're going to discuss how Harding Harper joining the staff will affect recruiting. Baseball is back in action against Indiana State, and even though they fell 2 spots from 7 to 9, they're still in the top 10. And is there going to be a youth movement on the way? Also, what do the Sycamores bring to the table? How does this matchup square off in a midweek ranked matchup between the two? Stay tuned for that. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers, join today and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Well, Harding Harper is officially a member of the Vanderbilt coaching staff. At least when they announce it, I assume that he's official. I don't know exactly when he was able to begin his role as the director of scouting, but he is now officially on board. They have the official account has officially named him the director of scouting, and I think I just broke the record for how many officiallys I can say. But I think the impact of this hire, I think the whole point of this is the impact of this hire it'll be very, very large because Vanderbilt is not known as a recruiting juggernaut. And I think and I said it when they first announced that they were hiring him. And I don't know, like, if he's been able to talk to recruits on the phone or like what he's been able to do based on Vanderbilt's hiring process. But to me, I think you're going to see an uptick in offers. I think you're going to see a guy that's coached all the defensive positions at the lower levels. I think he's going to come in, and I think you're going to see this more in college football where you have guys like this that want to get in the door at the Power 5 level that coach at FCS or below that played at these bigger universities. And I think you're going to see these guys come in as analysts. They come in as directors of scouting, maybe a strength assistant, just something I think that would be kind of in their wheelhouse. And you're going to see kind of, and talking with my friend Matt Perkins, he told me kind of how it works at Wisconsin. Not that it works the same way here, but you're looking at like the hierarchy of the recruiting process, and the director of scouting underneath the head coach is like the next in line when it comes to making offers. Obviously, the head coach has final say in everything because guess what? It's his program. But, when you have a director of scouting and you trust the guy, the head coach is probably going to take him at his word. So I like this hire a lot because I think you have a guy that, and as I said before, I'm going to reiterate now, and I believe it even more wholeheartedly now that I've seen the offers. I think you're going to see a guy that understands the importance of an ever fast growing Middle Tennessee as far as high school talent. You're going to see a guy that knows the restraints that you have at a place like Vanderbilt. And you have a guy that's coached in a variety of different places on many different levels. And, to be exact, he played in 2012 to 2015 at Vanderbilt. He's a product of the state of Alabama. He's been at Lycoming College. He was at Missouri as a grad assistant. He's been at the high school level. He's studied at Penn State. He's worked at Colorado. He's worked at Houston. So he's kind of been here, there, and a little bit of everywhere. And he's been, jumping up into the Division I ranks as a scout. And I think that's important because that's going to be a niche. And not only is it going to be a niche for high school recruiting, it's going to be a niche for transfer portal and keeping your eye out on people who, like, let's say you were in on somebody, let's say you finished third on somebody. Well, it's going to be keeping those contacts. It's going to be making sure those bridges don't get burnt when they don't choose your school. It's going to be when keeping an eye on the transfer portal and saying, oh, this guy's here. We have this need, and this need. Okay. And we're going to budget time. So it's like a director of scouting at the NFL level. That's an extremely important job. NFL GMs get hired out of that chair. And will he become a GM? I don't know. But there's going to be a day where there's a college football program that's going to hire a head coach, probably at the G5 level, if I'm being honest. But there's going to be somebody that hires a guy out of that chair and into the head coaching chair, because like they kind of see the 30,000 foot view. They're more of a CEO. They've got probably the hardest part of a head coach's job responsibilities. They've got the most experience there. He's got coaching experience, so they're not worried about him being as a coach. And I think you're going to see some of that. And if the staffs morph even more, and you get a general manager, maybe you see these guys. Maybe it operates like an NFL office where the scouting department is a branch of the general manager and the coaching staff is the other branch. So like this thing could go in 20 different directions as college football evolves. And for them to be on the cutting edge of this, I think is really, really good. Now, a lot of people, now you're going to say cutting edge. A lot of people have directors of scouting, but like, I think I think structuring the director of scouting has like different roles, and they fit in differently in the hierarchy of different staff. So it's not like, it's not like they're all created equal. And I think that places like Wisconsin, where they're almost like right below the head coach, and then you have like the coordinators who are on like semi-even footing, and then the position coaches who can get their suggestions. But if there's a tie goes to the director of scouting. And for Vanderbilt, I'm not sure exactly how it's structured because I'm not in the building, but I can only imagine like you're going to hire this guy and you're not going to listen to him. You're probably going to give him final say to the point of, with the exception of yourself if you're Clark Lee. Like Clark Lee's going to have ultimate final say, obviously, but like who's going to have the next highest say? Probably this guy. And he's an expert at it. He's been in this role in different places, probably operating under different capacities, but like because the process of recruiting has changed so much that you can't really nail down what a director of scouting is really supposed to do and what they can do. And I think the rules are going to kind of shift to where like these guys are allowed to travel. Maybe the recruiting staffs are allowed to travel. Maybe they open up to like, okay, the coaches are restricted travel. The directors of scouting, the scouting department has, basically unlimited scouting. So like those guys on Fridays, instead of being with the team on a road trip, they disperse, right? And they go boom, 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 to different schools and different places. And then they all meet up on Saturday, or some of them just stay out on the road. You just don't know exactly what the rules are going to morph into. But I think if we're fixing college football, going back full circle on an episode that I brought out about Clark Lee saying football is broken, I think if you want to make a change, I think you allow those guys to travel, put a little more restrictions on the coaches being able to travel. That way you kind of preserve quality of life and you get your presence out there all at the same time. And then like the scouting people, like they have limited travel sessions. They can't, obviously they can't go during the season. They can't go, but like, I don't know, like we could spend, episode after episode after episode kind of putting the rails on this thing. But I think Harper, again, what I'm trying to say and how I'm trying to back that up is that like I think he's going to kind of change how they're recruiting, and they're going to kind of go on a philosophy of he understands that Nashville and Middle Tennessee needs to be their recruiting state, right? They need to lock down those borders before they do anything else. They need to kind of like what Miami did in South Florida, which I don't know that Middle Tennessee and South Florida are the same in talent levels, but you have to have that same philosophy of, hey, we're going to lock down this as a recruit. We're not going to worry about the state of Tennessee. We're going to worry about the state of Nashville, which is basically Middle Tennessee. So lock down those borders. You've got a guy that understands where the hot pockets are, understands kind of how to navigate. He can tell people, hey, this is what playing at Vanderbilt is like. I played here, during the James Franklin era, and I can attest to everything that you're seeing with this program. I can tell you all the challenges that you're going to have academically. I can tell you what football is going to be like here. I can tell you what playing for Clark Lee is going to be like. I can tell you all of these things. And he's been in a bunch of different situations, most recently Alabama, and he can say, hey, I know how Nick Saban does it now. This is how we need to do it. And that's valuable. And that's why there's going to be a surge. You're seeing a lot of offers early. You don't really see that really, and not that I've paid a ton of attention to Vanderbilt recruiting over the years, but like I see all these offer lists working at Rivals, stuff like that. I see all the offer lists comes out, and Vanderbilt's usually not one of the first people to offer. They're usually late to the party. They're usually reactive instead of proactive. They're more proactive now. I've seen a ton of offers go out to kids in not only the mid-state, but like everywhere. Like they come to these junior days. They're going on these evaluation periods. They're making a lot of offers, and they've really kind of upped their recruiting game as far as the not only the scouting department, but the recruiting creative content department as well. So anyway, I think it's a home run hire. Might be one of the best hires of the offseason. And this is probably one of the best staffs top to bottom that Vanderbilt's ever had. Even James Franklin's staff probably wasn't as collectively talented as this staff. And coming off a 2-10 roster, like I didn't think this was possible. I didn't think this was possible to get a coordinator as talented as Tim Beck. I didn't think it was possible to get Jerry Kill on as a special assistant. Thankfully, he's okay and his health is better. And thankfully we have him. If he didn't have any health issues, obviously he'd be killing it in a Power 5 place and probably would have won championships. I mean, he just happened to be at TCU when they went to the national championship. He was in this role. So if you listen to him, he's going to steer you in the right direction. And redoing recruiting and hiring Harding Harper is a huge step in that direction. So welcome aboard officially, Coach Harper. And look forward to seeing the impact that you make on recruiting. They've already got a bunch of people lined up for the camps in June. This is going to be an exciting summer, probably more exciting than you're ever used to. So buckle up. But anyway, Vanderbilt coming off a tough loss on Sunday, trying to find some answers. Is there a possible youth movement in baseball at the Hawk? We'll discuss. Stay tuned. All right, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. That's right, FanDuel. You can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. So bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, and exclusive props and more. So just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel is the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. All right, here we go. Welcome back. Thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. Thank you to the everydayers for making all of this possible. And if you could, if you're viewing on YouTube, just simply look at the scroll. And if you forget, just keep looking down. You'll see it. It keeps scrolling. If you're listening on the audio side, at Locked On Vandy on X and IG, you can follow the show at Coach Burton36 if you want to follow me personally. So, talking about baseball now, right? And watching the games this weekend, keeping an eye on what's been happening. I think a very clear message was sent to the veterans on Sunday because Sunday seemed to have kind of a lackadaisical feel to it. It just seemed like one of those days where they looked kind of bored almost. And it ended up costing them because like they were in control of the game early on. And Devin Futrell was pitching a beauty, right? He was pitching a beaut. And then all of a sudden, bullpen comes in and they fall apart. And you're trying to figure out what's happening. And it's almost like Sunday was kind of different. Like there's other days where they kind of went into panic mode. And like just lost command at the plate, started walking people, and then served up like hittable pitches, and the other team was just driving them into gaps and knocking in runs. But this past Sunday, it seemed like they were just kind of off in space somewhere. They made a bunch of uncharacteristic errors. Braden Holcomb made one. I think Jonathan Vastine made one on the base paths, getting, on a different level. And they just it just looked like they just weren't there fully, right? I don't know if it was burnout. I don't know if it was just overconfidence. Like, hey, we could stroll in. I don't know what they would have to be overconfident about based on Saturday's result. But like, there's some just a weird vibe. It was a weird vibe on Sunday. And I heard that some of them were late to the park and they were running sprints before the game. I've heard, there's been an influx of freshmen. So anytime you get freshmen, it's always the mental state is always, if you're watching me on YouTube, my hand's going all about, but it's always like here and there and everywhere. Like it's high, it's low. It's, it's just going like this all the time, and when you have those kind of things, that's what you have to expect when you're playing a lot of freshmen and inexperienced guys, like a lot of some of these second year guys that were injured. But, it's hard to really kind of gauge because the losses haven't all been the same. It'd be one thing if it was like you could really pinpoint it. I mean, I guess you could narrow it down to like the bullpen is blowing up in the eighth inning, seems to be blowing up in the seventh and eighth innings, late in games. All right, you can pinpoint that. But then, like where's all the run support? Like you could also blame that too. So it's like there's no run support. And the bullpen does okay, and in college baseball, you're going to give up some runs because it's metal bats. But like you can't go cold all of a sudden and then expect you expect your pitching to be lights out, and then sometimes it just completely blows up, and then Sunday it all goes south in a hurry. So I say all that to say that Tim Corbin, I think, is hinting by some of his roster moves, and I think by some of his comments, I think he's hinting at giving these young guys more of a shot. Like McIlvain was great. Ethan McIlvain was great. Grayson Carter was fantastic. Carter Holton's not a freshman, obviously, but like he was really, really good. And you had Koziel. Cameron Koziel was very good. He's a freshman. Braden Holcomb, his first at bat, just absolutely sent a baseball into orbit. Jaden Davis is a newcomer. He's not a freshman, but he's a newcomer. He's a new guy. He was really, really good. So you have, Dukanich, is somebody that, I like. He's not, I don't think he's a freshman, but like he's somebody that I don't think was going to be as heavily counted on. So, there's a lot of these guys, and I'm probably, listing not all of them that's going to make an impact, but, some of them. And there's some veterans that no matter what, they're always going to come ready to play. And that's like Alan Espinal and, Davis Diaz and Jonathan Vastine, those guys. But you got a lot of guys that are just kind of sitting there ready to make an impact. And at some point, I think you have to figure out, okay, what does a youth movement actually mean for this program? Does it mean we're giving up? No, these are very talented freshmen. But does it also mean that you need to be ready to take some lumps, take some growing pains? Yes. And I think that's why you're seeing some of these guys, I think you're starting to see some of these guys really kind of play to that, right? And that's why these moves are being made I think this is why these moves are being made now and not during conference play, because you have to understand that what they bring to the table, they need to work out these mistakes, these freshman mistakes now, so that they're not freshmen. They'll still technically be freshmen all season long, but like, you're not really a freshman when you've had more than 10 games under your belt. You're kind of past that a little bit, and so they're hoping to get them past that a little bit. They're hoping that some of these freshman bullpen guys especially can come in and really kind of settle in and be those guys that you can come in and rely on in the middle to late innings. So again, youth movement. We'll kind of see how it shakes out midweek, but the first test is going to be Indiana State, and they're a good team. And so you've got to figure out your lineup, and we'll talk about more about what to expect and what you're going to see against Indiana State, who their tough guys are. So just stay tuned for that. All right, game time. That's right. Have you ever had a negative ticket buying experience? Well, if you have Game Time, you wouldn't, because they have last minute tickets, flash deals, zone deals. Their tickets are easy to find, and you can find any kind of event in sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. You can also view your seats from the venue, and they have the lowest price guaranteed, event cancellation protection, all of that. So Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind when you purchase. You can see the view from your seat, as I said, before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. They have all-in prices that show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. You can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. They're obsessed with finding ways to help you save money on tickets. Game Time has deals on tickets right at the start of the event, even an hour after it starts. It's the best place to find last-minute seats. So if you find exclusive flash deals and sponsored deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. I don't know what is in the more category, but like if there's more, you can find it. So with zone deals, you pick the section, Game Time picks the seats for big time savings. Also, the Game Time guarantee, means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So here's what you need to do. You need to take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. You need to download the Game Time app and use the code LOCKEDON. That's LOCKED on for $20 off your first purchase. So download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, welcome back. We are the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. And thank you for making us your first listen. When this is over in about 7 minutes or so, go watch Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job over there, and he's very, very exciting to watch. So make sure you check him out. But just looking at like Vandy baseball, they welcome Indiana State into town, and Indiana State's coming off of they're still, well, I guess technically they're still on a road trip, I guess. However that goes. But anyway, the Sycamores of Indiana State are ranked number 24 in the Perfect Game USA poll. They are it's going to be, they're 7-0. They have wins over Louisville and UConn. This is not an easy team to play against. They're good. They're good up there at Indiana State. They do this thing they call baseball. So it's going to be a tough matchup nonetheless. And it hasn't been named at the time of this recording, but I believe that you're going to see J.D. Thompson going against Indiana State. So the big names to kind of watch out for, for Indiana State. They they cracked into the national polls here. Part of their undefeated streak has come from the fact that Parker Stinson had a trio of home runs against South Florida and Marshall. He's an outfielder that brings a lot of power to this lineup. He's hitting .333 with an .833 slugging percentage at this moment. He's driven in 6 runs and scored for himself. He just destroys the baseball. Randall Diaz also is the shortstop. He's on a 27-game on-base streak. So he has really good plate discipline, and he's going to get himself into really good situations. He's hitting .357 at the plate right now. He has 10 hits and has reached base 17 times over 35 plate appearances as the leadoff hitter for the Sycamores. He's also hit a grand slam as well against Marshall. So he's very dangerous. Not a great way to start the game if you are a pitcher pitching against him and wanting to be stress-free. That's not the guy you want to see striding to the plate, but it is the guy that you will see striding up to the plate, as Randall Diaz is their leadoff hitter. Dominic Listy, he has also been an on-base machine. This team has done really well at the plate altogether. He's scored 8 runs. He's had 5 walks. He's gotten hit by 5 pitches, so he has a magnet apparently in his back pocket. So he's somebody to watch out for. Luis Hernandez and Henry Brown have provided clutch hitting on the season. They've driven in a ton of runs, and the pitching staff is the nation's best. They're top 15 in 5 different statistical categories. Strikeout to walk ratio, walks allowed per 9 innings, 7th in ERA at 2.08, 11th in WHIP, whatever that. I've never really kind of understood WHIP. Maybe somebody can educate me there. And 14th in shutouts. So if you're a team that's struggling at the plate and struggling to gain some consistent footing, you do not want to see Luke Hayden and Jacob Pruitt. They both have sub-1 ERAs, and they both strike a ton of people out. So when you have a tough lineup like this, your pitching needs to be on point. You need to have command of the ball, put the ball in the zone, and hit your spots. I think hitting spots in a game like this is more important, because if you can keep these guys off balance and keep them from barreling the baseball, you're going to be fine. At the plate, I think the lineup has to kind of be done a little bit differently, maybe. And not that I'm smarter than Tim Corbin, but to me, I'd like to see a little more speed in the lineup. It's guys that can get on base and guys that can slap the ball. I don't know that you're going to really gain a whole lot from trying to just muscle the ball around. You haven't really been doing that much all year, or at least not at a consistent clip. But, I think continuing to find that balance of speed and power is the ever so fleeting task that Tim Corbin has had. And it seems like each time he tries to do it, like the thing that went wrong the last game, he fixes that, but something else. It's like the person at the dam, bloop, plugs that hole, water comes out here, plugs that one, water comes out there. And they just it's like constant right now. And I know that's very frustrating, but this Vanderbilt team is still very, very talented. So Alan Espinal, Jack Bolger, Jaden Davis, and RJ Austin are guys that can drive the baseball. Jaden Davis can put it in the gaps. Bolger, Espinal, and Austin are guys that can put it over the fence as well. I mean, not that Jaden Davis can't, but those guys are more known for that. I think you have some other bats that can drive the baseball. I think if you get Carter Holton, who's not going to pitch probably, but if you can get Braden Holcomb, that's what I meant to say. If you can get him more comfortable at the plate, get him settled in a little bit, I think he's still very, very amped up, and that doesn't surprise me at all. He's a freshman, and he's very excited to be out there. You get him kind of settled down a little bit, good pitch selection, boom, maybe he takes one out of the yard. I mean, that dude bat looks like a toothpick in his hand, and he just He just yokes it every time he gets a hold of it. When he gets a hold of it, if that ball gets any lift, it's probably gone. So to me, the game plan has got to be throw strikes, let your defense work. Runs are at a premium, and do your best to manufacture things. Play a little more small ball than usual. Get guys that are going to create havoc on the base paths, because even though Indiana State is good, they're not immune to making errors, especially if you have base runners that are going to put pressure on you. So keep that in mind. And this game should be interesting. We'll see kind of where Vandy's at as far as lineup wise, as far as pitching wise. We'll kind of see kind of where they stand as far as all of that. This will be a good litmus test for this program, and should be very, very exciting. So anyway, that's going to do it for us for today. Later on tonight, we're going to see just what Vandy can do, and we'll check that on out. So make sure you follow us on social media at Lockdown Vandy, at Coach Burton 36 for my personal. Make sure you subscribe wherever you find us, wherever you find your podcast. Tell a friend, tell the people. It's going to be an exciting ride as we navigate baseball season into the summer and through football season. So the goal is to get to 1,000. Let's make it happen. But we'll see you back here tomorrow on a Wednesday. So long. See you later. Peace.